am so thankful that you showed up. So I want to give you a little bit of history about why this happened. So growing up, we grew up pretty humble, and we didn't really, I don't think, have a savings account. And the reason why I say that is because if we did, I don't know why we were making checks on Wednesday to make sure that they didn't get cashed till Friday. So I grew up in Las Vegas. I'm from Las Vegas and Mora. I am definitely a norteña, brown and proud. I have a lot of shout outs to give today. And before we get started, I definitely want to say that I'm so proud of Burke 505 after Tuesday, because we're going to continue to have financial empowerment. We're going to continue to have the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Let's give them a round of applause. We celebrate our diversity in New Mexico, and no one can tell me any different unless they'd like me to take my hoops off. So we're bringing sexy back to finances, and I really wanted to thank all of our partners, because I think teamwork makes the dream work. All of these clouds are the amount of money that I have oversight on. And why am I telling you? Not to brag, but to be clear that as much as people think we're poor, we're not poor. We just need to figure out how to make the situation on the negative turn into the positive that we have in New Mexico. And so we have $68 billion with our State Investment Council. That's our sovereign wealth fund. We have in my office $19.6 billion. That's your liquidity. That's the stuff that you use to pay all of your bills. We have with public employees retirement $18.6 billion. If you're an educator, that's an educational retirement board, about almost $19 billion as well. We have Housing New Mexico here, who is helping out with the tie-in of housing and how we can partner. There's, I think, almost 30 programs in housing with Housing New Mexico that you can utilize. So I want you to go talk to those three ladies over there at some point. Retiree health care for those that already get to retire. You're going to get there, I promise, at some point. Retiree health care has a couple billion. Opportunity Enterprise is under MFA, not Housing New Mexico, but Mortgage Finance Authority. Renewable energy is about $2 million, but they're doing some really cool stuff with, I don't know if you guys know where Torrance County is, Corona. There's the largest in the Western Hemisphere wind turbine energy production of 550 miles of line that we're going to be selling energy to Arizona and California. We have invested billions of dollars recently in venture capital that is also going to be fostered into New Mexico. And so the reason why I bring this up, because I want to start with a positive, so let's go to the negative. I'm going to share some numbers with you. And please don't be confused. As much as I'm going to put these numbers on and they break my heart to see, read, and talk about, especially when it's not in New Mexico, this is where we're at. This is the reality of what's going on in our lives. And so we're going to go through these, because in the meantime, I want you to start thinking about a couple different things. Financial empowerment, financial literacy as a graduation requirement is critical for us to do. Right now, it's only a local option. We need to make it mandatory. Why do I want to do that? We have a bigger vision. I don't think of us as poor. I think of us as enriched. I think that outside of our culture and our language and our dance and our music and the best chili, that's not a question. That's non-debatable. We have other things that we can be doing with our children so that they don't have to have 3 jobs, go to school full-time like I did, or like my dad did, working 3 jobs, trying to raise a family, breaking his back, and can't even move his hands to bend because of the arthritis that has happened over the years of his life. Many of you have parents and grandparents just like that. And so there's another way of doing things, and there's jobs here in New Mexico that could help us get there. So we have 49th in family and community. Our high school graduation rates are among the lowest ranking states in the nation in high school graduation. Education, we already know. We talk about it all the time. Health, we're ranked 44th. Substance abuse, most of us have been impacted in one way or another by a friend or a family member with highest alcohol-related deaths or issues with drug and substance abuse. Child well-being, we're ranked 50th. Violence, we topped a recent Forbes list of most dangerous states with the highest crime in the nation. Incarceration, we like to incarcerate people more here than anywhere else in the United States. Economic well-being, we're 48th. Public assistance, New Mexico has the highest per capita percentage of SNAP recipients and Medicaid recipients in the country, which is why you've seen me at the national level fighting for food stamps and Medicaid, because we get impacted the most in this situation. And in suicide in 2022, the most recent data available, New Mexico had the 4th highest suicide rate in the United States. That doesn't look very good. So what are we going to do to shift it? I think we have some leaders that are working on that shift. Here in Albuquerque, you guys are doing a lot of different things to shift it. In the state, we're doing quite a bit on the investment side. State Investment Council's hiring 30 new people that are related to any type of financing and investing. I'm hiring 8 different people in mind, same reason. We have para, ERB, MFA, Housing New Mexico. They all need employees. We have 33 counties that need treasurers and finance folks. So you see where I'm going with this. Go ahead and move on to the next one. I know that you're going to hear about this later on in today's presentations with Vanessa, but you have to hear things 2 or 3 times to get it into your mindset. And so I want you to really think about these numbers. The unbanked in New Mexico is 44,000. We only have 2-some million people in our state. There's a difference between unbanked and underbanked. 5.3% are unbanked, 20.8% are underbanked. Those numbers are actually better than they were 6 months ago. So we're making progress, but we have to continue to do more, which is why these offices are so important. We have nationally, to compare New Mexico with the nation, we're higher than them. In underbanked, we're a lot higher than them. It's time to make some changes. You may have heard financial fitness as a graduation requirement. The treasurer doesn't shut up about it. It's because it's really important. It's something that we never talk about because it's a hidden secret how much money we make. It's a hidden secret if we have a savings. It's a hidden secret that you can actually invest in money markets or stocks. We have someone here that's an expert financial advisor that's going to talk to you later today. And we have a professor that's going to talk about it today. And it's exciting information to share with everyone because it shouldn't be a hidden secret. Do you guys remember the song from Salt and Pepper? This will tell me how old you are. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. Do I have a yes or no? Okay. So, do you remember why that song came out? Say it one more time. The AIDS epidemic. So the same way that that song came out back then for us to have honest conversations about sex and not freak out about it is the same type of conversations that we need to have in 2025 about our finances and where we're at. The goals that we have today, can we strive to get them tomorrow with the way we're working it out? Let me give you an example. I hate saying financial literacy because it's not that you're illiterate, it's that you haven't worked out. So for example, let's say you're going to do a 5-mile workout. You want to get that workout in. You're not going to go do 5 miles today, right? You're not going to be very good at it. You probably won't be able to move tomorrow. But if you started walking, then you started walking further. Then you decided after walking 2 miles a day, you want to jog. I think I could do this so long as your knees can handle it. Then you can get to that 5 miles. This is financial fitness. It's a way of us working out knowledge, and knowledge is power on our behalf. And it's okay to ask lots of questions in that process of you learning it. And so in 2021, the National Financial Capability Survey says that people are more likely to spend more money than their income, incur late payment fees, use credit cards for cash advances, exceed credit limits, and borrow money for non-banking institutions. They're less likely to set aside emergency funds because no one thinks they have enough money to do that, have a retirement plan or retirement account compared to respondents with high financial literacy. So in New Mexico, we decided to get Senator Mo Maestas to propose an amendment to the big curriculum bill that was happening to ask for financial literacy as a graduation requirement. And in doing so, we lost by 1 vote. So don't tell me votes don't count, because they counted and I needed 1 more to get it passed. both in Senate Ed and on the Senate floor. But there was an option, another way to skin a cat. There was a local option. So outside of managing almost 20 billion, 30 employees, 13 boards, councils, and commissions, I decided, along with babies, that it was critical to go around the state to let school superintendents, school boards associations, principals, teachers, educators of all likes, and our students to say, you matter, and you should have this in your school. And it shouldn't matter what rural community you're from, or what zip code you live in, or what circumstances you had in your life to not know finances. And so I'm really excited to say, because I'm a half full kind of gal, 49 local school districts reach over 150,000 public school students in the state, have made financial literacy a high school graduation requirement. We have to celebrate those small celebrations. 37 of those districts require completion for a full year. Total students is 308,913. We're at 48.5%. So I definitely need everybody's help to talk to people that you know within different school districts to get them onboarded. So I wanted to share this graph. The important thing about this graph is that there's $140 trillion out there. There's only 484 accredited financial, economic, and finance departments. There's 75 universities globally, not in the United States, globally, that teach some investing, and there's only 4 that teach investing. So outside of just financial literacy as a graduation requirement, then I want financial literacy K through 12. I want us to talk about it in all of our subjects. Then I want to partner with our universities, UNM and NMSU, so that we can collaborate a concentration in government accounting. You'll love that, Sanjay. Government accounting, budget, and investing. And the reason for that is everything I've already told you. We have the money and we need the people. We need the workforce. We have less babies being born and we have more out-migration than we have had in years past. Kids, young people don't want to have kids because you just heard right before I came on here, the average age for someone to buy a house is 40. 40. How are they going to want to have a child and a family if they can't afford it? So yes, graduation now is free in New Mexico. Yes, now we have daycare free for families. So next is baby bonds. So you might not have heard about baby bonds. You may have heard of mega accounts, not the same thing, different purposes. Baby bonds in New Mexico is every single baby being born. Imagine this, because this is a law we want to get passed together. Every baby being born has $7,000 in their name. It doesn't matter if they grew up with a parent, or they're being taken care of with a grandparent, or they come from a drug-addicted family. It doesn't matter, because the money is attached to the child's social security number. Then you're probably saying, some of you who are pessimistic, which is at least probably about 65% of you, well, I wouldn't give them that money. Neither would I. Trust but verify. They don't get the money directly. We invest the money, and guess what? We're going to talk about compound interest and rate of return. And when we get that money and we hold it and we invest it, we make approximately $20,000 to $25,000 by the time the child is 18 years old. So imagine a child who may have not had a great situation growing up. They still get the teacher that says, what are you going to do with your $20,000 when you turn 18? Everyone has more hope. They have more opportunity and they have more chance. So this will jumpstart homeownership. It will expand access to education. It will fuel entrepreneurship, improve mobility and job access, and offer long-term stability. Those items are critical for New Mexico to stay successful with the money that they have. Right now is a critical time for us to do some really amazing things with it. How are you going to get entrepreneurship by giving somebody $20,000? Well, let me tell you. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize Small Business Investment Corp. Guess what? I'm on that board, so we're already partnering with it. How are you going to get people in houses? Guess what? I'm on Housing New Mexico. They're here today. They're doing it in New Mexico. They're using up all of the money that they're given every year from the legislature or from federal funding. So these things are absolutely attainable. I don't want to hear no's. I want to hear how can we get to yes. And that's important for us to open up our minds to think outside of the box and realize that we can have as much opportunity as we work our butts off to get. So here's your 7,000, then it turns into 23 to 37,000, and at the age of 35 to 65, it's 74,000 to 568,000. The overall purpose, build wealth. Overall purpose, generational wealth increased. What does that do for us? Because an elected official would say, well, I need to get elected next year. Nobody's going to see that 7,000, which equates to 700 million. Guess how much we spend in social services every year? Take a wild guess. No one's incorrect. 700 million? No, higher. In New Mexico, how much do we spend on social services in the state? How much? No, 10 billion. Put that graph up for me real quick, because some of you are visual learners, so you need to see it for yourselves. The state spent at least $2 billion in fiscal year 23 in income support programs to subsidize low wage and support people. But look what I put down on the bottom. $8 billion from federal government. So why are all the elected officials in New Mexico freaking out about what's going on at the federal level? This is why. This whole thing is why. So I don't know how many of you are from the ranch, but there's a saying, I can teach you how to fish or I can get you the fish. I would rather teach you how to fish so you can get your own fish when you're hungry. So we're going to go into a couple of lingo words because you're going to hear them today. And I want everyone to feel comfortable. I want you to know this is a place where you're safe. And I want you to know that you can be vulnerable in this space because there are people who will talk to you privately. You can ask questions throughout it, so long as we're on time, which I don't know if we are. But it's something that I really want you to feel, that's something I really want to learn more about. And then we'll continue to have more classes and lessons. So banks versus credit unions, they're very different. A bank is only, for the state treasurer's office, a bank is the only one we can invest with because of the FDIC insurance. FDIC insurance, go to the next one, is insurance that allows you up to $250,000 to be insured by that bank. And so I don't want to go into Vanessa's slides so much because she's going to talk about this in detail, I promise. But I wanted to give you just a glimpse of some of these words, and they're all in your presentation in your booklet at the back. So if there's a word or an acronym someone used, check them on it and ask them, what does that mean? Because they're so used to using acronyms. So go ahead and go to the next one. What is a non-banking financial institution? There's a difference when people use, for example, a bank versus, I know now younger people are using their phones a lot and they're trying to get their paychecks prior to getting their paycheck. It's predatory. Even if it says it's only $1 each time you use it, if you're getting to pay $1 for $50 and you look at the percentage, it's predatory. And so we need to make sure that we're educating people on that aspect. So why use mobile banking? A lot of people, especially in the rural areas, don't feel comfortable with mobile banking. I will tell you it's one of the safer ways to do business. You can take a picture of your check if you're still using a check and get it deposited immediately. You don't have to worry about going to the bank. It's a time consumer. You can easily do that. If you love to go to your bank because you love to go visit with the people you've known forever, by all means, keep doing it. But this is a great way to do something when you're out of town, out of state, out of country, and you need to get mobile banking completed. Or your kid forgets to tell you that they needed something today in half an hour that they needed from the school. It's an easy way to be able to set up your child in a protective way to be able to have access. What are some benefits of depositing your checks using mobile banking? We just talked about that. Mobile wallets, we don't need to talk about that anymore. So let's get into the lingo, interest versus compound interest. I know that one of the presenters today is going to talk about it a little bit, but I wanted to give you a little bit of perspective. So interest is the percentage of the dollar amount you borrowed, and that's important because depending on if that percentage goes up or down, which is a fixed rate versus a variable rate, it's going to cost you a lot more. So interest is a percentage of money you earn on top of the original amount. So if you have a house payment and you're trying to figure it out, it's important to know that it's a fixed rate versus a variable rate, because as rates go up and down, well, they never go up and down, Laura. Yes, actually, in this last 2 quarters, rates have gone down 75 basis points. That means a 0.75%. That's significant when you're talking about a house that costs $300,000. Or you're on a fixed income, you're going to college and you want your Broncos credit card, and nobody told you that the rate will fluctuate, that it's not always going to be the same percentage. That matters because if you only have so much money in your paycheck at the end of the week or every 2 weeks, that could shift you having to get another job. Speaking from experience. So we talked about interest. We talked about compound interest. It's basically compacting it all in to make more money off of it. We talked about fixed rate and variable rate. And savings and investing is important because everyone uses those words interchangeably and they're not. A savings account in the bank is very different because you're getting a different percentage than if you put it in an investment account where you'll make a lot more money. So that's where you have to decide, do I need the money right away? If I need the money right away, then I want to make sure that it's more liquid. Liquid just means I have access to it faster. And so one of our presenters is going to talk about that in detail today and what the difference is. Guess how much money you need to start investing? Does it need to be $1 million? Does it need to be 500,000? How about 50,000? How about 5? Yeah, absolutely. How about 1,000? Absolutely. So everyone can have an opportunity to do some type of investing, and they're going to talk about investment options. This is important. This is super duper important. You'll hear the word being thrown around a lot. It's important to understand what that means. Fiduciary means that you're doing what's in the best interest of whoever you're holding money for. That means that even if I don't get paid for it, even if I don't like it, I have to tell you, this isn't going to be your best option because your kid's going to college in 3 years. This is going to be high risk and it could potentially hurt you. A broker-dealer has their best interest at heart. They can still give you decisions, but to options to give you, but if you don't know any better, a broker-dealer will always have their best interest at the forefront. So you have to be cognizant of that. So me as a state treasurer, my responsibility is as a fiduciary. Sanjay's job, working for the city of Albuquerque and their finances, he has to work in the item of a fiduciary. It's in the best interest of the people's fund that you're serving. So the retirement pension, that's who I'm focused on, is the pension and how it's going to impact people being able to have respectful retirements to be able to have those checks later. So there are different types of investment risk. We put some of them up here for you to look at and the definitions, and they're all in the back of your slides. But if you ever, in the middle of these conversations, hear professors or teachers or financial advisors talking to you about risks, there's all different types of risk. And some of them are valid in what you're doing and some are not. Market risk, the risk of decline in the value because of the economic development. That's basically, for example, rates dropped 25 basis points yesterday. That matters, especially let's say you're about to retire and you invested a lot more in stocks than you did in bonds. That could negatively impact how much you thought you were going to be getting every month if you did retire, so you might not be able to retire as quickly. Liquidity risk, that means you need to have access to cash. You'll see in my office, and people will complain about it quite a bit. I can't believe she has $3 billion in liquidity, meaning like in the bank or money markets or overnight. It's because we pay so much money out so quickly. We have to have it liquid. And all of our money in the treasurer's office is a short-term liquidity. We don't invest anything out further than 3 years because that's our job. Now, on the hat of my state investment council, we're looking at long-term for that $58 billion. So we don't care as much about all the noise, we call it the noise that's happening in the day-to-day, because we diversified enough and we have a long-term investments horizon and we have different vintage years that help us to make sure that no matter what something might be doing bad, something else is doing good, and overall that total makes positive. Inflation risk. We all know what inflation is. It's when your eggs were $3 and now they're not. It was when corn was 10 for $1 and now it feels like it's $10. That's inflation. It's when it's the same item but the value of that item fluctuated up. Sometimes it's also supply and demand. Longevity risk, the risk of outliving your savings. Horizon risk, the risk of unforeseen circumstances. You lost your job. We need to make sure we have enough money in the bank to make sure we can utilize it to pay the rent or the mortgage. Reinvestment risk, the risk of reinvesting at a lower rate. It happens sometimes, and that's why it's good to have a financial advisor. They can talk to you. This is their day-to-day job. They don't expect you to know all the answers, but you do have now tools in your toolbox to ask the questions that you need to ask. We put a ton of questions in your packet. Credit risk, risk of government or company inability to pay interest or repay your principal. And concentration risk, you didn't diversify. You didn't put everything in. For example, let's say you are buying real estate. If you bought it all in commercial businesses, and this is COVID, guess what happens? You sort of got screwed. Why? Because everyone went home. They couldn't go work in their business establishments. But if you diversified it and you had housing, you had complexes, you had storage, you had everything that deals with different types of real estate, then the little piece that you had in your commercial that tanked at that moment, it was okay because all the other ones did really well. So money market account versus a certificate of deposit. A lot of people love a certificate of deposit. A certificate of deposit holds your money in for a certain amount of time, and then you have a maturity date. So you're going to get that 4% no matter what until it matures, unless you needed it sooner. So you need to make sure that's something you don't need at that moment. Money markets are a little bit different because it's a hybrid of a checking and a savings account. You will earn higher interest than a checking or savings account. You have more liquidity. You may come with monthly minimum balance requirements and maintain the fees. Everyone should have a little bit of a money market, in my opinion. It's just an opinion. So needs versus wants. We all talk about, I need this. And we let our kids say it. I want this, Mommy. They're not allowed to talk to me about wants. And I know I sound like I'm contradicting myself because I said what I want for education, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get it. Whether it takes 5 years or 10 years, I don't want to go out to 15, but I see the vision of New Mexico in a different light. So I really, really want that, and I have a strong team to get it done. So needs versus wants. Do you need that subscription to Netflix? Is it a real need or is that a want? So you really have to identify on a piece of paper privately to yourself, what are my needs and what are my wants? What's my budget? Where am I overspending on that budget? A lot of banks will even show you what you spent throughout the end of the year, how much you spent in gas, how much you spent in restaurants. They'll even tell you how much you spent in bars versus restaurants. That's really important because if you said, I'm only going to have a coffee and take myself out one day out of the week, probably hump day because that's probably the hardest day, or Tuesday because that's when I have the biggest meetings, and the rest I'm going to make my own coffee at home. You just saved yourself it's at least $5, right, for a coffee, maybe 10 now, inflation. So you just saved yourself almost $40 a week. So let's just say it's 50. So that's $100 every 2 weeks. Let's say that's $200 a month times 10. You're looking at $2,000. You just saved yourself $2,000 in 10 months. So when people say, I can't afford to go on a vacation, well, there you went. There's $2,000. I can't afford a 529 plan. Natalie's going to talk about 529 today. Yes, you can. It's all about your wants and your needs and diversifying what it is you need versus what you want. So the definitions. What is debt? So debt is money borrowed to make a purchase you cannot afford at the time and you plan to pay back at a later date when you do have the actual money. It's important not to go into debt for dumb things. I've done it all the time. When I was in college, I thought that Broncos credit card, like someone else was paying it back, I guess. And I thought because it was only $50 a month, that was okay. Because it was only $50, I could afford $50. But what I didn't calculate into that fact of $23,000 afterwards is that the amount of money I was making at the time was never going to get me to the amount of money I owed with the interest calculated into the first amount that I had borrowed, which was probably only about $17,000, maybe $15,000. What is collateral or a guarantee? So a collateral or guarantee is something pledged as security for repayment of a loan and may be forfeited in the event of a default. Many of you have gotten a car. You need to put something down for it. Or you've heard somebody put down their own house lien for debt of something else. So in my line of business, we have 19 billion. We want to make sure the bank's going to give me back 19 billion, right? You can go down up to 50% in the state of New Mexico. I don't feel comfortable getting half of $20 billion back if something really bad happened. So I don't collateralize at that percentage. So it's dollar in, dollar out. Some of my banks who we've had long relationships with and we check them on a quarterly basis, they're at 75% now. Debt to income ratio. We talked about this a little bit. It's the percentage of your gross monthly income that is spent on your monthly expenses. So you have your mortgage, you have your car payment, you have your gas, you have your food. You put it all in. If you're making $2,000 every 2 weeks, but all of your bills cost more than the $4,000 that you're getting in that month, there needs to be a shift. Some people who work, let's say they just became an apprentice in Los Alamos, they're making $36 an hour? They're banking it. And so what do? Some of them will get the biggest big truck ever with the big tires and whatever else. And guess what? They live with their mama. That's not working out, right? Because assets matter, what your asset is. Once you took that pretty little truck or big truck off the lot, it already depreciated in value. You're not going to get the same dollar amount for it. But if you would have instead invested in an apartment or a complex or a house, and gotten a mediocre truck that's reliable and safe and you can still put your tools in, then you're investing what it is you want long-term for your success. So credit score. A lot of people are not actually very familiar with the credit score. There's a presentation about it today, but we wanted to make sure you understood that the number was from 300 to 850. There's 3 different companies that you can utilize, and the scoring of each one is in your packet. And those are the 3 different reporting bureaus that you can utilize to be able to get that. All right, so we finished it. I told you we could do this and it would be fast-paced.